better. Thanks for coming today. Before we get started, as always, I want to acknowledge and thank our refreshment sponsor, Harrington House, down the road. Provided the cookies today. Thank you to them. All right, and I'm going to welcome Henry Quinlan. Sorry, I've done that in my head. This is Henry's first time here, but he has really been around for a number of years doing the senior center circuit, so you may be familiar with him if you go to any of the other centers. He has a wide variety of topics, a lot of history topics, and today he's put together a presentation which sounds very interesting, Grandparenting with Purpose. Thank you, Henry.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. So when I first started thinking about this topic, I did some research and put together a presentation. And after I reviewed it, it seemed, wow, this is pretty stiff. There was almost like rules, all kinds of rules, and we'll go through them. But then the reality sets in, and the actual practicality, as we've all experienced it, and I'm guessing by the ages I'm looking, you're near my age. And as you know, grandparenting is very different when the young ones are 4 and 5. Mine are now up into the mid-20s, and if I see them, I'm lucky. Hi, Grandpa, bye, Grandpa. But that's all part of the story. So grandparenting with purpose, it's one of the best things I've experienced in my life, the creation, and I'll give you more detail later. But also I've witnessed some just horrific family breakups over grandparents and access to the children. And some of them are just heartbreaking. And I'll get into more of that also. So the first thing, my rule is know who the parents are. And if you know who the parents are, you know what you can do and what you can't do. And you also know what you should, knowing who the parents are, you should let them know, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And that's critical. And if you're going to do something that's very unusual, take a trip or something like that, you always have to inform the parents. That's kind of, and again, as I mentioned earlier, the kids grow up and no longer are kids. But I will tell you that the relationships you build with them in those younger years pay huge benefits when they're in their 20s and older. And I'll give you some examples of that. And I believe that grandparenting is really the frosting on the cake. It's one of the real joys of being my age, and I was younger when they were younger, and it's just, to me, it's nothing but pluses. So research shows that a warm grandparent relationship can support fewer emotional problems, stronger resilience, and better social adjustment. The benefit, this study, like others, will talk about the benefit for the grandchildren, and that's to be sure. I've heard one person describe it as, it is frosting on the cake. Many young people grow up without any relationship with grandparents, but the lucky ones have a good relationship. But also, what a lot of the studies forget, it's a great benefit to the grandparents. There's a lot of joy to be had by creating good relationships with your grandchildren. So here's a little bit about myself. I have 3 children, 6 grandkids. I'm a tennis player, so I involved them all in tennis. And as one of my grandsons said to me one day, "Grandpa, tennis is boring." I said, "Well, Ryan, I gotta have news for you. When you're 50, you're not playing lacrosse." And, so he dropped out of my tennis program. But at 24, he came back to me and said, Grandpa, I think I'd like to learn how to play tennis. So things do change. I've created special birthdays, and I'll go into that in no detail. But so on the tennis end, my whole goal is that it's been a great benefit to me in my later years. And that's all I wanted to do. But I had my youngest granddaughter. She started at 2, and she would play with no one but me. And we belonged to a tennis club, and the pro there had a young, and so that now we're talking 14 years later. She's 12 years. So the tennis pro said, Emily, I want you to play on my club team. You're really good, blah, blah, blah. And Emily said, no. So she enters into high school, and her mother sat her down and said, Emily, you cannot go through life only playing with your grandfather. You have to promise me you'll go out for the tennis team. And she got the promise out of her. And so she played, and she made the team as a freshman, ended up as a captain, and now plays. She's graduated college where she played, and now she's out working. But to me, it was always something that was good to me in my later years, and I'm hoping the same would be good for them. So here's a little bit more background. One of the fun things, and all of you could qualify, I'm a member of the MIT AgeLab, where they're trying to understand why some people live longer than others. And one of the rules that comes out of it, or lessons, or however you describe it, is being engaged like you are, being active like you are. And, the ones who don't, and it's always been a mystery to me, friends and family, and I've given, as she mentioned, a lot of talks. The big mystery to me is men in retirement. Women have a much better retirement age than men. They are by nature more social. Men are vertical. Their careers go up like this, and sometimes as they move up the ladder, they drop friends. And too many men that I know, once they get into their senior years, they kind of retreat to the couch and watch CNN. And it baffles me. And I can be talking to a man, and within 3 minutes I know he's living back there. There's nothing for me with him, because the key that too many men miss is your life is in front of you, and life is meant to be enjoyed. And you're not going to do that by living in the past. The past is the past. Enjoy it, celebrate it, all of that, but don't live there. So that's been my experience, and that's what they teach at the MIT AgeLab also. So effective grandparenting is intentional, loving involvement with the grandchildren that nurtures their growth, supports parents' efforts, and balances emotional closeness with clear boundaries and age-appropriate responsibilities. All seems so formal, and I think we all know life is not that cut and dried. Prior to relationship, children benefit most from a close, dependable relationship with grandparents, which is linked to better self-worth, behavior, and mental health. Absolutely. The grandchildren benefit from it and having a close relationship. Here are the main life roles for grandparents: caretaker, helping with children, supervising, mentor, offering guidance. You know, same as with a parent. You know a parent is successful when your kids come to you and say, hey, I have a problem, can you help? And you want the same thing with grandchildren. Being a storyteller, passing down family history. And when I start, and I'm sure you have the same experience, when you start telling family tales, they say, oh, Grandpa, that never happened. But in fact, it did. Supporter, emotional support, encouragement, sense of security. Just as you all know, just showing up to a softball game or a soccer game or any game. That's a sign of support. And a bridge builder, building generations and strengthening the family. How do you see yourself? Do you see yourself as the fun boss? A second parent? Focus on the connections, stories, emotional support, all of the basic things that you gave to your children, now you're basically giving to your grandchildren. Recognize today's parenting norms may differ from what you did. As one who took the subway at 10 years old alone, I can tell you that doesn't fly in today's world. So recognizing today's parenting may differ from what you did. Treat parents as the primary decision maker. This is a hard one for many. You're used to dealing with your child as a child in some instances, and now all of a sudden that son or daughter is telling you, hey, Dad, you can't do that. That takes some adjustment. Follow their rules even when you quietly disagree, unless the child's safety is truly at risk. Ask questions like, how would you like me to handle bedtime? What is your rule about sweets? How many of you done those last two? That's pretty much not many. That's why I say this is kind of formal. So here's what the surveys tell us. The parents say 40% of the grandparents are too soft. 14% say they're too tough. And 46% of the grandparents say it's a mix of both. So there's no universal thought. It's all individualized. But the way to eliminate most conflicts is to agree on anything major beforehand. As you probably already experienced, you've done something with your grandchild, and maybe your son or daughter didn't actually like what you did. So to avoid those kinds of conversations, nothing wrong with saying beforehand, this is what I want to do. Here's where the contention, biggest flashpoint is discipline. Meals and snacks, 44%. How do you say no to your grandchild when they want a candy bar? That's just reality. Screen time and TV. This is a problem not only for the parents, but for grandparents too. You want to tell your grandkids, get off those screens. There's nothing that's going to really hurt you in the long run. So that's the one area I've seen where the parents and the grandparents really come to almost 100% agreement. And health and safety and social media sharing. Both of them, I've never found any parents or grandparents disagreeing with those basics. Discipline. Can you match the parents' discipline? We're all different people. We all experience it differently and express it differently. I have yet to see any grandparent mirroring exactly what their child wants them to, how to discipline the children. Avoid undermining parents by rescuing children from consequences or criticizing rules in front of kids. Yeah, the last thing you want to do is start arguing with your child, with your grandson or daughter standing there absorbing it all. So, restraints on sugar and snacks and special treats. Coordinate the gifts. You know, and then you have the problem of you have one set of grandparents are extraordinary in giving gifts, and the other set give modest gifts, so to speak. That builds in conflict. Ask permission before posting photos and stories about your children online. Follow the parents' rules. You can see where all this is going. It's so formal, but really in your interaction with your children, it's mostly informal. Never force hugs, kisses, physical affection. Model consent and bodily autonomy, showing that no is respected. The boundaries. Start with appreciation. Begin by acknowledging what you value about your relationship and your adult children's parenting. Use warm, specific praise before raising concerns. Boundaries is a very loose, because part of creating an open relationship with your grandchildren or with your children is kind of loose set boundaries. You want to encourage them to say to you anything that's really troubling them. So the greatest thing I think a parent or a grandparent, or a parent in particular, can hear from one of your children is, hey, I have a problem. That shows you have open communication. If you shut off that communication valve, you're never going to hear those words. And that's really what they want, open communication. Use clear, respectful language. Use I statements. I feel confused when the rules change and I'd like to understand better. Well, that's common sense. Be specific about what you need or what you are offering: time, childcare, transportation. In other words, you're in the middle of leaving for a trip and one of your children calls and say, could you take Joey to school today? And you got halfway out the door to catch a plane. So there's got to be some boundaries on both sides. Practice learning. I think by the fact that you're grandparents, you've already learned to practice learning with your own children. That's how you learn about them. Listen to the adult children's reasons. And then you can question your kids. What is the most important for you? Why this rule? Keep the conflicts, absolutely keep them away from the children. Never argue or disagree with your kids in front of the children. That does nothing. Be honest about your energy, your finances, and your schedule. You know, if your grandchildren say, as they all do when they're younger, hey, Grandpa, buy me that. And I'll say, no, I can't afford it. And that's okay. So you have to learn you can't create a false world for them. Set limits about last-minute childcare, and boundaries help you show up consistently and loyally rather than resentfully. When boundaries are crossed, how do you deal with it? If by accident, by intention, you have to be upfront about it with your child. I did this or I did that. I know it's violating your rule, but I felt blah, blah, blah. If you know beforehand that it's going to be an issue, obviously it's best to bring it up beforehand. And I'll tell you in a minute what's interesting about all of this. I keep coming back to this, that it's all these are all out of the book, so to speak. This isn't the perfect world, and life isn't the perfect world. And the statistics on all of this will tell you that that's absolutely true. Nurture, invest time in your relationship with your adult children, not just your grandchildren. Oh, who doesn't do that? It's funny, once a week I have breakfast with my sons, not my daughter. She and I go to lunch. Why? Well, it is different. Men, boys are different, so it's different, it works well. Build special traditions within the family rules. Sometimes, and I'll give you some examples, I created traditions outside the family rules and they seem to work. So, practical tips, how can I best support you with the kids right now? Are there any new rules or routines I should know before I babysit? I have an idea for a treat or outing. Does this fit with your guidance? I don't know about all that. So here's, my video blanked. Technology is great when it works, but so here's the good news. The good news. About 6% of parents report major disagreements with grandparents. 37% report only minor disagreements. The vast majority, on one side or the other, they just endure. And so it's not as rigid as that introduction of all those rules and everything else. Families tend to work these things out. But where the special thing can come in is grandfathers and grandmothers are different. We all know men and women are different. And they often share the same love, but they tend to express it in different ways, shaped by gender roles, personality, family expectations. Grandmothers more likely to be the day-to-day relationship organizers, planning visits, remembering birthdays, and keeping in touch with grandchildren. Grandfathers are more likely to be seen as playmates, teachers, project partners, focusing on activity skills. Grandmothers lean towards nurturing, listening, etc. They're frequently a safe place. Grandfathers are much more physical. I mean, men and women, they're different. AI can be a great help. So I'm thinking in terms of you want to have a special dinner for your birthday party for your grandson or granddaughter. Put the specifics into AI and then ask, I'd like a meal which is made up of his favorite main dish, and tell me what would be good accompanying his main dish. Where can I buy it at the best price? Artificial intelligence will roll all that out for you. And then if the supermarket near you is in AI, they'll tell you where each item is in the grocery store and say, go to aisle 2 for this, aisle 4 for that. So it's just amazing what AI can do to help. And there's plenty of ways that AI is used with grandchildren. As a technology project, you'll teach your grandchildren about AI. Assistant storytelling, video message you can send through AI. Often your grandchildren say, hey, Grandpa, what was it like growing up in Boston in 1942? Get on AI and print it right out. There it is. You want to read about it? Game nights, you can change. If you have grandchildren that are living far away, you can get on AI and play a game with them. Multi-generational families, great way to connect. AI-powered hobbies, conversational starter, photos and memory projects, tutoring, you can help your grandchildren with the homework. So it's all good. AI is good, and you can use it. You have to be careful, but don't use it don't connect with your grandchildren just with AI. A phone call is good too, the personal touch. So here's a poster I did for my granddaughter on her 26th birthday. This was created on AI. She's a horsewoman, and then you put in all the facts and stuff. She loved this. She immediately had it framed and put it in her bedroom. That's some of the things that you can do that are very unique. But you still have to maintain the personal connection. Here's some unique ideas for grandparenting. Family time capsule. Every year the family gets together. What should we put in the time capsule for this year? And involve the grandchildren, make it participation. Grandparent breakfast and dinner, these are all pretty, hiking, a baking day for grandchildren. Family history day, bring out the old photos. Outdoor adventure, connection, sleepovers, movie nights, all of these things. And I'm sure you already do a lot of them. Books written for grandchildren. You know, using AI, you can write a book with your grandchild pretty easily. One author says they're slop, but they can be very good and very engaging if you both do it together. Travel, there are all kinds of travel sites. You want to take a trip to Chicago, you want to take a trip to Europe, all kinds of sites on the internet for grandparents and children traveling together. Special camping trips. And obviously, on something like that, you have to get the parents to buy into it. So here's my best ideas. This is my crew at some point. So I'm sitting at my granddaughter's 2nd birthday. And at the table is my granddaughter, some of her friends and cousins, and then outside of the other parents and neighbors and everything. And I'm sitting there saying, does she even know I'm here? Probably not. And so I thought about that, and I said, so after I kept tossing, I said to myself, I'm not going to go to any more of these birthday parties for my grandchildren. But what I am going to do is I'm going to have a one-on-one dinner with them around their birthday. So I started that tradition with her at 2, and we recently had she's now 26, had our 24th dinner. So what has happened in that period? She gets to know me as a person, and I get to know her. And it becomes, well, all of them the same. And so when their birthday is approaching, they'll say to me, hey, Grandpa, when's our birthday dinner? And it's a nice thing to do, and I look forward to it as they do look forward to it. And of course, we started at McDonald's, and now we're at the white tablecloth restaurants. But that's the natural progression. The other thing I did was, I've been doing this maybe 20 years. So I decided to have a Christmas party just for my grandkids. Again, when they were young, I did magic tricks for them. I wasn't very good, but they were so young they didn't know the difference. But in the last 10 years or so, we've played blackjack. And I deal, so I make sure they all win. So they absolutely love it. So those are some of the unique things you can do. And in a minute, we'll kind of discuss all that, because the last time I gave this talk, I was amazed at the people who have unique ideas themselves, how they celebrate with their grandchildren. So there's my crew at one of the dinners, or the Christmas. So I have 2 grandsons. You have to go where they are. One is 100% sports, and the other one could care less. So you have to adjust. And that's where my tennis, the one who was only no sports. But he did, at 16, go skiing. And he took to skiing like duck to water, and for some reason he loves skiing. That's the only thing he does of a nature and sports. The benefits are lifelong. And as I watch my grandchildren grow up, and I hear from them at our birthday dinner, the things that they struggle with, school and dating and all of that stuff. But it's really, really wonderful and makes the bond very special. So my granddaughter at my 80th birthday said to me, hey, Grandpa, let's go skydiving. Now, I couldn't say no, it's my granddaughter. I've been preaching to her all these years. So we went together, and it was just a wonderful experience, even more so because it was with her. And so those are just some of the things, it doesn't have to be skydiving, it could be anything. The important thing is you do with them and it becomes memorable. So that's what I've learned. I've learned that, you have to be present with your grandchildren, be interested in their life, and be willing to listen. So when I had these dinners for Christmas time, once they get into college age, some of them were just, out of state. So they used these Christmas dinners to catch up with everyone. And I kind of looked at myself, and when I would have them as they're older, I just kind of sat there and they chit-chatted all back. And then at my 80th birthday, one of my granddaughters got up and said, I want to thank Grandpa for having those Christmas dinners, because without those, I wouldn't know some of my cousins as well as I do. So those are all good things, good things come out of it. And it's all about paying attention to them. And if you are lucky enough to have them nearby, that's a major, major bonus. And so now I'd like to open it up to the audience. What are your ideas? Because I think this is a topic that I don't have a corner on the ideas. Last place I went, there were so many I couldn't even count them. Everyone has special things.
Two things I do with my grandkids that I think are somewhat unique. One is every 10th birthday, when they get double digits, I give them either a spaghetti jar or a pickle jar full with nickels, dimes, quarters, and pennies equal to $100. It weighs about 15 pounds, and they're 10 years old, and a couple of them still have them in their room. They've never touched it. Others quickly spent it. Thinking about money, but that's what I do with them when they hit their 10th. Last year I just finished my last 10-year-old.
Yeah.
The other thing I do is that I take one of my grandkids to karate class once a week.
Yep.
And each week I give him a new word, the word of the week. And it's always got, it's beyond what they would do
Right.
at school, that same type of thing. But now the list is for him, and the list is almost 100 words. That, and they're not always, big, they're just something that you can get a concept. Like this week's word was limbo. And I talked about the religious aspect of it, and I talked to him about how you are often in limbo yourself. You can't decide this, that, or the other thing.
Yeah.
So that's what I try to, and he enjoys it. Every week after karate, he says, "What's the word of the week?"
That's great. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. And more of you, everyone has them.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've been doing, as my grandchildren got older, as people know, their tastes got more specific. So for birthdays and Christmas, they literally would send me links to things that they wanted. And that wasn't any fun for me. And yeah, they got what they wanted, but I wanted, whatever. So now what I do is I give them Nana money. And I literally photograph money and put my face on it. and they can only spend it when they're with me. So I take them shopping. And as they've gotten older, now some of them are in their teens, they know they can get away with spending a little more than the Nana money.
Yeah.
And we go out to lunch and we do things like that.
That's great. That's great.
To their Nana money.
Yeah, that's great. Great. Anyone else? I know you all have them. It's just built in.
I have 4 children, adult children, and they're all parents. And one daughter, she and her daughter do these do-overs. In other words, Karen's the mother and Julie's the daughter. But if Karen feels as though she went overboard, the next day or a couple of hours later, she'll say, "Let's do a do-over. I didn't really mean that you could or couldn't do that. Let's do a do-over." And Julia is entitled to do the same thing. She can tell her mother, "Let's do that one over."
Yeah.
I wish I knew that when I was raising them.
Yeah.
We couldn't hear that. Could you repeat what she sort of said using the microphone?
You want to? Here, you just.
I had 4 children, 3 daughters and a son. And my second daughter, Karen, had a daughter, Julia. And they do this thing they call do-overs. And if Karen thought she overdid it, with punishing Julia or whatever, she would tell Julia, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean, let's do that over. Let me do that over." And Julia can do the same thing with her mother. And to this day, Julia's 25 and Karen's 62. And Julia will still sit on her mother's lap.
Thank you. So one of the more interesting ones I heard at the last one was a grandmother would plant vegetables with her granddaughter. And then they would go through the process of watering and taking care of them. And then when they are ripe, they pick them and then create recipes. What's the right way? So the whole thing was a learning process. I have several friends who have written books with their grandchildren. And that's very interesting because you're getting their perspective on an event that you experienced with them. And believe me, it's very different than what you thought it was. But that's a good way of rounding it all out and combining the experiences between the grandparent and the individual child. Painting is another one. Almost anything, any kind of an experience you can have. I took all my grandkids to New York City one time. And then I had a cousin who said, you know, I would like to go along. So he had 6 kids, and now we have 12 kids. And then someone else came along. And so we ended up with 24 kids. We go down by train, and we were staying in a hotel on the other side of the Hudson River. So I got to thinking, because we wanted to get going right away. So I looked in the newspaper, local newspaper in Brooklyn, found a trucker. And I called the trucker and I said, meet us at Penn Station. So we come out of the Penn Station, I said to all the kids, put your bags into this truck, and he was going to deliver them to the hotel in New Jersey. And then someone asked me, do you know this guy? I said, I have no idea who he is. But he delivered the bags, so it worked. But traipsing around New York City with 20-odd kids is physically very draining. Oh, yeah. But it was a great time. But those are kind of, you know, things that you can do. And again, as I'm looking around the room, we're not doing that because we don't have the energy to do it. But we can still do other things with them and participate with them. And the benefits to both sides, clearly the birthday dinners are still a big item with my grandchildren. And the Christmas, we still do that too. And those are nice things, and that bonds everyone. So. Oh yeah, we had a lot of that. Yeah, have we lost anyone? Yeah.
How many times did you do that?
Huh?
All day. You just did it once, right?
Yeah, once. That was a one-off. Yeah, there was no repeats on that one. Well, some things I learned the hard way, and that's one of them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, one time I took them over to Martha's Vineyard for the day. Went over by boat. We went swimming in Oak Bluffs and ride on the flying horses and lunch and everything. Then we go back, and I lived on a pond down in Wareham. And the kids all said, well, let's go swimming. I said, enough. But, you know, it's great. They have that unlimited, and then as they get older, you know, it's great to, you know, when my granddaughter, now 26, when she starts talking to me about her boyfriend and things like that, and her job, and my mind is half back when she's 4 years old, so it's the contradiction of ages is very interesting. But there's a lot we can do. I mean, again, I get as much out of it as they do, I hope. At least they tell me they do. But, you know, any participation you can get with them and make that bond stronger is all pluses for everyone. Anyone else?
We like to have them do nature walks and develop a lifelong appreciation of nature.
Yeah.
Such as trails and ask them to find certain objects.
Yeah.
You know, we take them up to Fox Pond, or Stony Brook is really good. Where they have a little thing for them to follow. So, we're trying to develop an appreciation for nature.
That's a great idea, because when you can instill that appreciation, that's something they'll carry all their lives.
I have 4 grandsons, ages 10 to 6.
Yeah, yeah. It's great. I think those are fabulous things. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, kids, that's what we all did. We all learned things at a young age, and we carried them all through life. And so that's a wonderful thing. So,
Any ideas when you have a situation when a parent feels competitive with grandparents? It's like if a child wants to spend time with grandparents and the parent feels resentful.
right. I know what you mean. The grandparents' Olympics, they call them. And don't play. Be yourself, and I don't get involved in that. There's no one's going to win. What your grandchildren are looking for is authenticity, and who you are, how you relate to them as people. Not so much what you show them and what you buy them, but it's that individual relationship, and I let that other stuff go. That's my opinion. Yeah. So, thank you all. We're a very good audience. We've got a beautiful facility here.
It's a nice presentation.
Thank you.